Imagine waking up to a headline so absurd it feels ripped from science fiction. Pepsi now commands the world's sixth largest submarine fleet. No spoof, no Onion article, this was real newspaper ink in 1989. In a single barter deal, a fizzy drink empire suddenly owned 17 Soviet submarines, a cruiser, a destroyer, and a frigate, enough steel to scare a small nation. How did a sugary soda leapfrog navies built over centuries? Tonight we'll trace the billion-dollar thirst that began with a handshake in a Moscow fairground and ended with Pepsi's brief reign as an accidental military superpower. You'll see Cold War politicking, vodka economics, and the moment a corporate logo was stamped on weapons of war. And just when you think the bubbles have settled, trust me, they explode. Stay till the end, because the lesson Pepsi paid for in rusted steel might save your next business deal. Let's rewind to July 24th, 1959. The American National Exhibition has just opened in Moscow's Sokolniki Park. Vice President Richard Nixon spars with Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev in the famous kitchen debate. Amid the crowd stands 38-year-old Pepsi salesman Donald M. Kendall, clutching an ice-cold cup of cola. While politicians argue ideology, Kendall offers Khrushchev a sip of capitalism in liquid form. Cameras flash as the Soviet leader puckers at the sweetness, an image beamed worldwide. That single swig plants a corporate flag behind the Iron Curtain. Kendall leaves Moscow obsessed. If he can quench the Kremlin's thirst, he'll crack open a market of 250 million consumers locked away from Western brands. But there's a catch. Soviet rubles can't leave the USSR. To get paid, Kendall must rethink money itself. Fast forward to 1972. After 13 years of back-channel flirting, Pepsi signs a landmark barter accord. The USSR will import cola syrup. Pepsi will import equal value in Stolichnaya vodka, then sell it for cash in the West. It's the first time an American consumer product earns shelf space in the Soviet Union. By 1974, a shiny bottling plant opens in Novorossiysk, pumping out 1 million bottles a day and giving Pepsi a monopoly from the Baltic to the Bering. Every glug funds expansion. Vending machines in Leningrad metro stations, neon signs on Red Square, radio jingles that mash balalaikas with funk bass. Western analysts scoff, barter, but Kendall's revenue chart curves upward like a hockey stick. For a moment, Pepsi seems to have bottled détente itself. By 1988, Soviet citizens guzzle over 1 billion servings of Pepsi per year, 1 in every 3 soft drinks sold behind the Iron Curtain. Pepsi's Soviet franchise is valued at $3 billion on paper. Real money in an era when Apple is barely worth $2. But the sweetness masks a hidden cost. Each liter shipped in equals liters of vodka shipped out. Inflation soaks the West, vodka margins shrink. Meanwhile, Moscow's hard currency shortage deepens. Faced with a blockbuster renewal contract, Soviet Trade Minister Vladimir Nikolaev admits the state can't pay Pepsi in convertible dollars, or even enough vodka. Instead, he slides over a classified list: obsolete warships, slated for decommission. Their scrap value? Just enough to balance Pepsi's invoice. Kendall blinks. Ships for soda? This is where logic fizzes over the rim. Now here's where it gets crazy. On April 9th, 1989, PepsiCo signs the strangest purchase order in corporate history. 17 diesel submarines, 1 cruiser, 1 frigate, 1 destroyer, totaling 70,000 tons of Soviet steel. For a brief, hilarious heartbeat, the soft drink giant controls more subs than Australia, more surface ships than Sweden. Technically the 6th largest navy on Earth. CBS cameras chase Kendall down a corridor. "Are you threatening the US Navy?" He jokes back. "We're disarming the Soviets faster than you are." Behind the quip lies razor-sharp arbitrage. Pepsi charters Norwegian firm Sverdrup Shipping to tow the mothballed fleet to the Baltic, strip it, and flip the scrap at $150,000 per sub, pocketing desperately needed hard currency. It's a masterstroke, on paper. In reality, each hull leaks radiological headaches, towing insurance skyrockets. U.S. defense hawks glare at Pepsi for technically trafficking missile platforms. The PR buzz goes viral decades before viral is even a word. But this is where things start to fall apart. 3 months after the ink dries, insurance underwriters slap a 40% surcharge for potential nuclear residue. Scrap buyers bargain the price down. The once rosy margin evaporates. Worse, Washington whispers about COCOM violation. Could Pepsi face sanctions for acquiring military hardware from a strategic adversary? Kendall scrambles lobbyists. Meanwhile, Moscow is melting down. The Berlin Wall cracks that November. Hardliners stage walkouts. Rubles hyperinflate overnight. Pepsi's accounts receivable from the USSR balloon to $500 million, but the only collateral left is rusting warships that nobody wants. Suddenly, the Navy that made great headlines feels like an anchor wrapped around the balance sheet. And just when things seemed perfect, Coca-Cola storms the scene. In February 1990, Atlanta's rival inks its own Soviet joint venture, bypassing barter by demanding payment in coveted crude oil export quotas. Within a year, crimson Coke kiosks dot Moscow avenues. Pepsi's exclusive monopoly shatters like a dropped bottle. Market share plummets from 80% to 47% by 1994. Meanwhile, that fleet finishes its final voyage, straight to the cutters in a Norwegian fjord. Pepsi clears maybe $35 million on scrap, pennies against the marketing spend required to counter Coke's blitz. Donald Kendall retires in 1996, hailed as a visionary yet haunted by the phrase submarine write-off in quarterly earnings calls. The ships that once symbolized cola supremacy end up as razor blades and rebar, cold, silent monuments to geopolitical risk. By 2002, Coca-Cola controls 34% of the Russian soft drink market. Pepsi languishes at 23%, a complete role reversal from a decade earlier. Investment analysts tally the opportunity cost. Had Pepsi kept its near monopoly, annual Russian revenues could have topped $2 billion. Instead, they hover under $700 million. The final insult? Pop culture blogs recycle Pepsi Navy as trivia punchline, not triumph. Shareholders learn a brutal truth. Owning warships may look cool on a Time magazine spread, but liquidity beats bragging rights. For the Soviet Union, the deal is equally bittersweet. Within mere months of scrapping its own fleet for soda, the USSR itself dissolves, proof that even superpowers can run out of cash and caffeine. So, what can a side-hustling entrepreneur or Fortune 500 CFO learn from a soda company that bought submarines? First, currency risk kills faster than competition. If your revenue isn't in hard cash, you're speculating. Full stop. Second, optics are a double-edged sword. The 6th largest Navy headline spiked Pepsi's brand awareness, but it also invited regulators, insurers, and comedians. Third, monopolies built on political privilege aren't moats, they're sandcastles. One geopolitical tide and the castle's gone. Finally, remember Kendall's quip to the Pentagon, "We're disarming the Soviets faster than you." It was funny, until the joke cost $500 million in write-downs. In finance, as in war, the line between brilliance and hubris is thinner than a cola bubble. Here's the moral in one breath. If your business model ends with you owning a navy, maybe pump the brakes. Pepsi's Soviet saga proves that growth at any cost can deliver exactly that, any cost. So the next time someone tells you a deal is too crazy to fail, remember the cola king who traded fizz for frigates. If you enjoyed sailing through this wild corner of history, smash that subscribe button, ring the bell, and stay tuned, because the business world is full of stories even stranger than a soda navy.